Welcome everyone to our webinar From Portfolio Thinking to Alignment and Impact. If you joined us for part one of this two-part webinar series, you know we talked about the why of portfolio thinking, our thought leadership webinar that we had a few weeks ago, and how aligning strategy and execution changes the game. Now today is part two, and we're talking about the how. We're pulling the curtain back with live demos of Tempo tools and Jira, plus some examples and techniques from one of our solution partners who's done this in the real world, as well as assisted others with their portfolio goals. Now, before we get started, I would like to poll the audience. We like to have, make this as interactive as possible. So I am going to launch the first poll. And we want to know how you currently manage your portfolio planning in Jira today. There's a lot of techniques that a lot of people have used, a lot of companies have used. We want to see what you're using right now. We're using spreadsheets, the tried and true method. You're using custom Jira configurations, third-party portfolio management tools, or you don't actively manage portfolio planning. We've got some responses come in. Thank you so much for your participation. These questions are very valuable for us because it helps us with making our products the best they can be, as well as the positioning and messaging that we use. All right. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. It looks like we have a fairly split audience here. Okay, we got about 20% using spreadsheets, a third of you using custom Jira configurations, about a third not actively managing portfolio planning. So again, thank you all for being here. I hope you learned something great. And let's get into back to the presentation here. And just a disclaimer, we're all going to be talking about cloud versions of the Tempo solutions in the Atlassian Marketplace, not DC or server. I'd like to introduce the presenters. My name is Chris, but everybody calls me Chappie. I'm one of the senior product marketing managers here at Tempo. And with me, we have Vandu from eCore, who's a solution architecture specialist, and Siku, our onboarding specialist, who will be giving a demo later on in the presentation. So here's the agenda. We're going to do a quick recap of the concepts and the challenges teams face when it comes to portfolio planning, linking strategy to execution, what's been tried before, and then we'll go into some of the tools that Tempo has that work really well together when it comes to this topic. We're going to have a chat with our solution partner, eCore. And then, as I said before, we're going to have a live demo showing structured Gantt charts, capacity planner, and custom charts for Jira and how they all work together within Jira. But before we get into the content, let me poll the audience one more time. Bear with me. Now, this question is more about the challenges you have with aligning strategy and execution. So what is your biggest challenge right now in aligning strategy with execution? Is it the lack of visibility into progress? Is it frequent reprioritization? I know that almost all businesses experience that in some way. Inaccurate capacity data, disconnected tools or processes, or maybe everything's working all right. You just want to learn something new. All right, we're about at 80%. So I'm going to end the poll, be respectful of everybody's time here. It looks like, okay, again, pretty split. We got about a quarter of us have experienced all of these challenges. Oh, this is great. Oh, good, because we're going to be talking about these challenges here in this webinar and how Tempo tools can help solve them. Now, in part one, Andy Jordan made part one of this part two webinar series. Andy Jordan made the case that strategy doesn't fail in the boardroom. It fails when it tries to survive contact with reality. You have those great conversations in a boardroom, but what happens when you have to execute? That's when things often fail. And we've all seen this. A carefully planned initiative gets derailed by shifting priorities, unexpected bottlenecks, or missing information. Now, our goal today is to show how you can keep strategy intact as it flows through planning, execution, and measurement without losing visibility, alignment, or your sanity along the way. Now, why executing strategy feels so hard? Let's get real. This is what we hear from portfolio managers, from PMOs, and delivery leads almost every week. We don't know what's being worked on. That's basically running your organization like a mystery novel, except no one's buying the movie rights. Everything feels like a priority, which means nothing is a priority and nothing actually moves faster. Dependencies derail delivery because nothing says fun like waiting for someone else to finish first. We're over capacity, which is corporate speak for everyone is doing 3 jobs. And plans collapse when reality happens. And we all know that reality is always punctual. So how have organizations tried to solve this challenge of taking strategy to execution? from taking those great ideas that happen in meetings to getting the work assigned and completed. Well, we have, as I was mentioning before, spreadsheets. They're flexible, sure. They're also the junk drawer of your business. They're useful, but you'll never find what you need in under 5 minutes. You have your slide decks, which are great for that moment in the boardroom, unless the second a date slips or a dependency changes. Standalone PPM tools, which have plenty of power, but they live on an island, away from where the actual work happens, in this case, often in Jira. And then you have, within Jira, custom Jira dashboards, which are helpful, but you're still looking through a keyhole at a house full of projects. And then, of course, status meetings, the world's most expensive way to share information slowly. So here's our approach. Keep everything inside Jira, where the work already lives. And here we have some of our Tempo products here that work very well together. It's a good collection of products that help solve this problem when it comes to portfolio management. So Structure organizes the work into meaningful, highly flexible, and customizable hierarchies, helping you focus on all the info you need out of Jira and none of what you don't at any given point in time. And then you have Gantt charts, an extension of Structure, which gives you timelines and dependencies. And then you have Capacity Planner, which ensures your people are available and balanced across initiatives. No underutilization, no overbooking, just making sure the best people with the best availability are on the best tasks and projects. And then you have Custom Charts, which gives you the clear, flexible reporting you need to share progress and insights with every stakeholder. A magical tool that can turn any developer into a designer. Now, think of them as 4 instruments in the same band. When they play together, you actually get music instead of noise. So, keeping with that music theme, I'd like to reintroduce one of our partner conductors, Bandhu from eCore. Turn my video back on. 1 second. All right. Sorry, give me 1 second here. Bandhu, thanks for joining us today. To get started, can you tell us a little bit about eCore and your role there?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris, for inviting me and having us. And hi, everyone. As Chris mentioned, my name is Vandal. I'm a solution architect here at eCore. At eCore, we help organizations to grow through technology, so combining consulting, engineering, and strategic services across different areas like AI, application development, cloud modernization, and digital operations. Our approach is built on over 2 decades of expertise delivering outcomes for customers across many different industries. As for myself, I spend my time more closely with leadership teams who are trying to make sense of complex portfolio. My job is to turn noise into signal. So connecting the tools they already use, like Jira and many other tools that might have been in place, connecting those with governance, rhythm, and decision-making structures that they need to actually move the work forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, a lot of folks here already use Tempo tools. You've worked closely with teams implementing these tools. Can you talk about which ones and how do you help customers really get the most out of them?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the challenge we see all the time in portfolio conversations, especially when the teams who have already invested in visibility tools like Structure, Gantt, or capacity planning. Those tools, they're powerful. They tell you how everything's happening and what's happening across the entire portfolio. So where dependencies are, where timelines might be splitting, and where capacity bottlenecks are forming. And that kind of visibility that is crucial and critical for all the organizations. The way we see it, visibility gives us the music score, keeping on the music theme, but that alone does not guarantee harmony. The real performance is going to happen when each section of the team, so strategy, delivery, leadership, they are playing their parts in sync with confidence. That's how you turn those static plans into orchestration and motion. But many times what we see is that visibility isn't always followed by movement. Teams can see what's happening, but they don't act on it. But that's not because they do not care, but they're not giving importance to what is important to the organization, but because many times they're not confident and they are not aligned, or even they don't know who owns the decision, or they're waiting for the leadership to waiting, or they're stuck in analysis mode. That sound familiar for any of you guys? So the gap isn't just about data. It's about how the teams are using the data, or more accurately, how the teams are not using consistently. So they have insights, but those stay just on the dashboards. They have status that get shared in meetings, but the portfolio isn't really moving with the real level of coordination and ownership that it needs. And that's when the frustration starts to creep in because the team delivered the plan, the PMO shared the metrics, the tools they reveal the risks, but no one feels like the organization's making the decision faster or even with more confidence. That's why I say, many times to customer, visibility is passive, but the change, the decision making is active. And building that bridge between those two isn't just about the process. It's about trust. Trust in the plan, trust in the data, making sure the data is accurate, and trust that the next step is clear and that the right people that need to take the step is empowered to take the step. We have seen these pain points across many different industries and team types. And the unlock rarely is more reporting. The unlock usually is having rhythm, so shared ownership, alignment. That was make people use the tools, not just use the tools, but use with intention. That what turns visibility into confidence. So as we move to the next slide, let's talk about what it actually takes to build a rhythm and how to make sure that visibility leads into velocity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think everyone here can relate to the idea that visibility alone doesn't create change. Now, earlier we introduced some common challenges that come up when teams are scaling portfolio thinking. Can you walk us through what you're seeing in the field?
For sure. So what you're seeing here is not just hypothetical. It's a pattern that we've seen and heard, in dozens of conversations, real teams managing real portfolios. They have the right tool in place, so dashboards, reports, capacity plans, dependency maps, but they're still facing a lot of friction when it comes to acting on what they see. So let me walk you through, this staircase of common pain points. When you're talking visibility without rhythm, the team has the visibility, so Gantt charts, dashboards, weekly snapshots, but those insights aren't building to those regular planning and decision cycles. So there's no tempo, there's no pulse. It's like you're hearing all the instruments, but there's no beat to follow. It's chaos. When you're talking about capacity without replanning, so even when the teams know they are overcommitted or out of balance, there's not a structured moment for those teams to stop and replan. The plan just keep going, but reality is drifting away from them. When you're talking on dependencies without ownership, the blockers there are visible to everyone, yet no one feels responsible for clearing those blockers. So the dependencies they just stay stuck. It's not a visibility issue; it's an accountability gap. So there's no one being responsible for those dependencies. And we're talking about the last but not most least important one, shifting priorities and unclear trade-offs. In fast-moving environments like the organizations that we have today, the priorities they are changing constantly. But without a clear model for trade-off decisions, the team just get caught in reactive mode. So everything feels urgent and the progress stalls. So none of those points they're bringing here, they're not two limitations, but they're actually sign of a deeper transitioning happening in the organization. So they're going from isolated data to integrated decisions. They're going from visibility to shared ownership. They're going from observation to orchestration. And that transition is not easy. It's actually quite hard. So it's not about adding more tools or more data. It's about building shared behavior across different roles, time frames, and different strategy levels. And that's where the real transformation happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's not that the tools aren't doing their job, it's that organizations need a model for actually using those insights consistently. Now, I know you and your team at eCore have a pretty structured approach to solving this. Can you share a bit about that?
For sure. What you're seeing on this slide is the rhythm that we help organizations to establish. It's not a one-off fix, but a continual evolving composition. It's our way to making sure that the music does not stop after the initial implementation. We always begin by turning into the current environment. So where are the decisions getting stuck? Who's playing solo and who's out of the sync with the group? This is not about auditing the tools. It's about understanding friction, goals, and the roles that people play. Before you can conduct the orchestra, you need to understand and know who is part of that orchestra. After that, we work with the teams to make sure we are arranging correctly the instruments. So connecting tools like structure, Gantt, capacity planning into a workflow that makes sense to their specific context. So governance, rituals, time, all of that matters. So because even when the best tools are in place, they won't sound right if they're played out of tune or out of key on the ways their teams are operating. Finally, we shift the focus from installation into orchestration. That's where the real maturity happens. So impulse of cadence reviews, confidence of leaders who know what to look for, and then the harmony that is built, when the teams are evolving together. What makes this approach work is continuity, is having this movement. It's not just a crescendo followed by a silence. It's an ongoing rhythm, evolving as your business evolves. You don't need a transformation that's going to rewrite your entire score. You need structure, tempo, and leadership that keeps everyone in tune.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, it's not revolution, but reinforcement. And I love all the music metaphors too. This is great. But to bring this down to earth, can you share a real world example of a customer you've worked with, how these challenges showed up for them, and what changed once your team helped them build that rhythm that you've been referring to?
Absolutely. So this is a case study that we did. This is from a large, globally distributed organization that we supported, and they were heavily investing in data and AI initiatives. So at a first glance, they were doing everything right. They had funding, they had talent, and they had the leadership backing. But when we got closer to the portfolio, we started seeing this pattern that we have been talking, throughout the entire session. Lots of activity, but not a lot of orchestration. So across the organization, the teams they were launching AI initiatives in parallel. So automated process review, customer onboarding triage, fraud detection, and way more than that. But each one was treated as an isolated project. There was no unified view of the portfolio. There was no cadence connecting those different business units, and there was no clear ownership for resolving interdependencies. So from the outside, absolutely looked like progress. From the inside, felt like chaos. So we simply introduce and work with them to create this orchestration model we just shared today. So this time, instead of just with the model, we infused all of that with the tempo tools and each of those layers. So structure gave us a way to map initiatives to business goal, creating a single view of AI initiatives across different departments. We brought Gantt to connect different dots, different points across different timelines. This helped the executive team. They not just see what was active, but the capacity conflicts and blockers might being arise and might being created. And with capacity planner, we are able to simulate different staffing scenarios. So rebalancing based on demand, talent constraints, and shifting priorities. But again, the tools were not the end of the story. They were an enabler. They were an enabler for this new rhythm we were building with them. We helped the teams to establish recurring portfolio syncs across many different data teams, business sponsors, and different delivery leads. We coached and helped those initiative owners to make sure they were taking responsibility not just for delivery, but to manage, but for managing those trade-offs. And perhaps the most important, we helped the leadership from inspecting outputs to make sure they were orchestrating outcomes. One of the early wins that we had with them was the modernization of one of their main process using AI. So that allowed them to cut wait times, and reduce customer risk. The bigger win, the organization stopped reacting and started coordinating. They were not just seeing the plan, they started to trust the plan. That's the power of the orchestration that we have. That's the tempo that we're here to build. So that's the shift we're seeing on many organizations and many customers we're working with, from fragmented initiatives to a coordinated, confident portfolio. And when that shift happens, the teams, they do not just execute faster, they make better decisions together. With that, I'm going to hand back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Bondi. That's a fantastic story, and thank you for sharing it. And I think it really underscores the message of today's session, that the tools bring clarity, but it's the rhythm and the decision making around that clarity that drive true impact when it comes to bringing strategy into execution. And with that, let's see how it's actually done. So I'm going to reintroduce our onboarding specialist, Siku, who's going to give us a live demo of the products that we've been discussing.
Thank you, Chappie. That was a great speech, Fondo. Really appreciate that. Okay. I am going to begin sharing my screen here. All right. Thanks again, Chappie. Again, my name is Siku, and I'll be walking you through how to use these tools, right? So structure, Gantt, capacity planner, and custom charts to get a true portfolio view of your work. So we talked about a lot of the common challenges people are having around visibility, planning, and reporting. So I'll show you how to use those tools together to kind of solve those things and make it less of a mystery novel, as Chappie was saying. So we're going to begin with structure. And you can think of structure as sort of a bird's eye view. This is where you can bring together all of your work across different teams, across different projects, and organize it in a way that makes sense for you or for your organization, right? So typically we see project management overseeing multiple initiatives. One team may be building a mobile app, another is working on backend integration, a third may be focused on customer facing features. Each team has their own Jira projects, right? So when you have all of these different things working together, you want to see how do these all fit together? How do they all work together? And with structure, I can put all of those issues or epics or stories or bugs, whichever your teams are currently using, into a single hierarchy. So here we'll see my simple structure here, and this one has about 6 different levels, right? And many organizations don't just work at one level. You've got initiatives, programs, projects, epic stories, and tasks all tied together. A flat list doesn't tell you the full story. So by expanding this structure across multiple layers, in this case, we have 6 layers, we can see how strategic initiatives break all the way down into day-to-day work. So we can see all of our work at once. So at the top layer, we see our big initiatives. It gives us a our high level strategic themes. And as I start to expand out into different layers, I can start to see those epics that these teams are working on. So going a little bit deeper, we see epics, the big pieces of deliverable work that teams will be planning against. Below that, we can uncover some of the stories and tasks that individuals may be working on, just drilling down even further. So team members are actually working on these items. And at the very bottom, we're going to see like the nitty gritty of subtasks. I'll just put this all out here when we can see all of the work here. So this 6-layer view gives leaders the top-down visibility they need while still letting team members track the bottom-up details, right? It connects strategy to execution. I can see not only what we're working on, but why we're working on it and how it ladders up into business goals, right? It also means when something slips at the task level, we can immediately understand the impact at the epic, project, or initiative levels. This lets you zoom in and out, giving you detailed work at the bottom, bigger picture at the top. So now that we know what our team is working on, now we need to know when are they working on it, right? And now we can layer that with the Gantt chart. This is where structure shifts from being just a list to becoming a timeline. So let's open up the Gantt chart here. Right. So if you have different teams, and you'll see all these different teams here working on their different projects, just plot it against time, right? So now it gives you the when. When are these initiatives taking place? And you're also going to see which teams are working on each items across this timeline. And let's say in a scenario, your mobile app team can't start user testing until the backend team finishes their authentication system. That would be a dependency, right? And Gantt, you can see those relationships. I can draw a line between the backend tasks and the testing tasks. So if one slips, the other one adjusts automatically. And here's where we can see some of those dependencies here, where you can automatically see any scheduling conflicts or anything that might be coming up to stop you from reaching your goals. So it's instantly going to show me anything that may impact our overall delivery timeline. So structure is going to show me what's being worked on, and the Gantt is going to show me when and what order things will happen. And once we have our plan and structure and are looking at it in the Gantt chart, we can also take a moment to think about our resourcing. And you'll notice here our resources button right here in the toolbar. This button here is going to give us a view of how our resources are actually doing and their capacity with Capacity Planner. Now, if I click on that here, we'll see our resource usage. At the highest level, I can see capacity across multiple different teams. This gives leaders a quick way to spot which teams may be overbooked or underutilized. And we can see that with the stoplight colors. So you'll notice that red means they are over allocated, they've been assigned more work than they can realistically complete in that time frame, right? And with this, I can drill down from months and keep going into the week of how much time is planned for each team here. I've got my teams here, Beethoven designers. And if I go click into that team, I can see what each individual's capacity is within that team. And I can also click right over into Capacity Planner from Structure, which is a very beautiful thing. If I click right into it, I'll be able to open this up and take me right into Capacity Planner to dive deeper into that specific team to see exactly what they're working on. Are they over or under allocation? And the same with that green stoplight colors, right? Green means a team or an individual is comfortable within their capacity. They can handle the workload in that period. Yellow is a bit of a warning sign. They're close to the limit, so you may want to keep an eye on it. And red, obviously meaning over allocated. They are assigned more work than they can realistically complete in that time frame. So it's a great way to spot potential risks if you've assigned a little bit more work than a team or individual can handle. So if we want to dive deeper and we want to look across my entire portfolio, forecast resourcing for months in advance, or shift resources around to meet new priorities, that's where Capacity Planner is going to come in here. Capacity Planner builds on what we've done in structure, letting us not only see the work breakdown, but also map it against team availability and actual capacity. So switching into Capacity Planner here, I can see multiple teams I have here and exactly which epics they're working on. At the team level view, we'll see what epics each team is working on and whether they are under or over allocated. And it gives me a quick way to shift things around. If if they are over allocated here in Q1, I can go ahead and see which team may be available to move that work into. So it gives you a quick view of, okay, maybe this team may not be able to handle this. Maybe we need to switch this over to Q2, and you can switch that over right in Capacity Planner. So where structure and Gantt shows you the work and a schedule, Capacity Planner helps you answer, do we actually have the people available to do this work? And if you've planned out, so in a scenario that you've planned out in your Gantt chart, but you realize one team only has 2 front-end developers and they're already fully booked, that's where Capacity Planner can come in, and we can go into the individual resource here and see our individual resources and which ones are over and underutilized. So you can see, oh, maybe I've given too much work to a singular person. I can go into this person, this developer here, and say, okay, they might have some vacation coming up. Who can I assign this work to? Who is available to maybe take on this assignment or take on this work, to make things realistic for the people that you work with. I can look at each team member's workload across multiple projects, and see that maybe someone is overbooked or underutilized, and within a few clicks, I can redistribute that work. This is where the connection matters. I can see, this is where connection matters. I can see that even if a timeline looks perfect in this Gantt chart and everything looks great in this Gantt chart, it may not be a fully realistic plan. So that's where you can make things realistic. So if the plan isn't realistic, it's not going to work. So together, Gantt and Capacity Planner let you balance both your schedule and people's resources. And unlike spreadsheets and a rough estimate, Capacity Planner is going to, so unlike spreadsheets, Capacity Planner shows us actual availability based on people's calendars, their workload profiles, and planned projects. We're not guessing at capacity here. We're working on the real data of these individuals. And this is the place where I can also make actual changes. If a team is over capacity, I can reassign work, move timelines, or even adjust priorities directly in here. It's interactive planning, not just a report. Because things change all the time, someone goes on leave, a project slips, or a new initiative comes in, this is where we can shift priorities immediately and see the downstream impact across all teams and projects. So we can even run what if scenarios. For example, what if we moved this project here to a different timeline or even a different group? What if we move this over here? Does that free up capacity? How does that impact our team capacity here? So we can even run what if plannings. Capacity Planner makes those conversations grounded in data instead of guesswork. The real value here is alignment. Leaders can make trade-off decisions with full visibility, and teams can work with realistic, achievable plans instead of overloaded schedules. And I guess this is where the music happens that Chappie mentioned, making a beautiful symphony instead of loud noise and a lack of visibility. So this is where we can execute actual change and replan based on reality and not just guessing. So now that we understand what we're working on in structure, so we know what all these different teams are working on, and we've also made a plan with the Gantt chart, and we've also made sure that plan is realistic with Capacity Planner. Now we want to tie it all together and show our leadership. All of that put together. How can we put all that in together? Because leadership may not want to, build a structure or look into structure. That's where reporting comes in. So custom charts is going to give me a fully built out dashboard of everything that we've seen so far. So it's going to show what teams are working on, and these are fully customizable. So you can build these dashboards based on the structures that you built. So no need to rebuild within your dashboard. You can pull that structure right from you can pull that structure that you've built out, that custom hierarchy that you made, and pull it right into custom charts, right? So you get all that data and you can see plan versus actual time by project, right? So what are all the projects that we've worked on? And what time did we actually spend spend based versus how much time, what time did we plan for versus what time did we actually spend on these projects, right? So it's going to give you a great high level overview that leadership may want to see, right? So custom charts takes all that data from Jira and from structure, and it turns it into a clear visual dashboard. So if leadership may want to know where are we spending most of our time, they can get a clear overview of, okay, without having to click through multiple different screens or look through spreadsheets or go through different modules, they can come to your custom chart dashboard here and see everything that's going on at a very high level with live data. So no need for a spreadsheet or popping into multiple screens. And these are fully customizable to show leadership exactly what needs to be shown and what can be worked on in the future. So now that we've seen a few of these tools, structure shows you the what are we working on? Gantt is going to show you that when are we working on it? Capacity planner is going to keep you realistic in who is working on it. And custom charts is going to give you that large overview. So showing you exactly what's going on at a very high level. And together, these tools let you move from individual projects to true portfolio management. You can align strategy with execution, spot risk early, and communicate clearly with stakeholders. So we went from having potentially scattered data and siloed team to a connected, visual, and capacity-aware planning process. Structure gave them the big picture. Gantt gives you the timeline, and capacity planner keeps you realistic. Custom charts is going to tell your story to leadership. And that's what it all looks like in action.
Thank you so much, Siku. That was a great demo. Before we get into the Q&A, just for those of you who want to jump right in and continue your SPM journey with the Tempo portfolio, I invite you to visit Tempo's page on the Atlassian Marketplace. All of the products that we have shown today are available on the Marketplace. You can see a picture of it right here. If you're a Jira admin, just follow the prompts to install on your instance, and you get it free for the trial period for 30 days for committing to purchasing it. And if you're a non-Jira admin, click the request app when you're in the Atlassian Marketplace, and you'll send a message to your Jira admin saying, "Hey, we saw this great product in this webinar. We really need it," and the Jira admin will take it from there. All right. So Siku, a lot of these are for you. So in your experience, how are PMOs today handling the challenge of getting a single source of truth across multiple projects and programs?
That's a great question. Honestly, most PMOs I work with are still stuck juggling spreadsheets, PowerPoint decks, and manual updates across different systems. It may take hours just to pull together a report, and by the time it's shared, it's already out of date. So with structure, all those projects, regardless of size or methodology, they can roll into a single Jira native view, and that helps them put that all together. That means that governance isn't something that you do after the fact, it's happening in real time. So executives can log in and see the latest statuses instantly without chasing down updates.
We have one question about dependencies here. Dependencies are one of the biggest causes of our project delays. How does Gantt charts help surface and resolve these earlier?
Well, yeah, I think dependencies are tricky because they're often hidden until something breaks, right? So you don't know that you have all of these, delays until there's a problem. So with structure and Gantt, it brings them to the front and center by mapping them out visually. So it's clear when one team's work impacts another's. So if I see conflict, say one task is delayed that's about to push out an entire release, I can simply drag and drop and resequence that work, right? Structure will instantly updates downstream items so everyone's looking at the same plan. It helps prevent those blockers instead of reacting to them after it's too late. So it helps manage that before it gets to that chaos and that noise.
That's great. Yeah. Trying to reduce that noise. It's all about that, let's keep the symphony going and get rid of the noise.
I love these musical analogies. I love it.
Yeah. We here's one about the dreaded bottlenecks. So here we go. So resource bottlenecks often derail our programs. So how does Capacity Planner help managers balance those workloads in real time?
That's a great question. This is where Capacity Planner really shines. So instead of guessing, managers can see exactly who is available and when, at both the individual and at the team level. So if someone is overloaded, the system is going to highlight it, is going to highlight it in a heat map. So it's crystal clear. We talked about that heat map, right? The green, yellow, red. And because you can model different what if scenarios, you can reassign or delay work before it burns people out, the dreaded burnout, or derails your timelines. So it takes the guesswork out of resourcing.
Yeah, that's great. Here we go. Here's a question about the ways of work here. So many organizations struggle to standardize delivery. We struggle to standardize delivery while supporting agile, waterfall, or hybrid teams. So how do the solutions that you showed, how do they strike that balance?
You're right. And I think that's a really common challenge. PMOs want consistency and standard reporting, but teams often need flexibility to work in the way that fits them best. So structure and Gantt, you can build reusable templates that ensure governance while still supporting multiple methodologies in the same view, whether it's agile, waterfall, or hybrid. So executives get the standardization they need while teams can keep the workflows that actually make them productive. So what makes sense for that team? Whatever makes sense for your team is going to be acceptable for Structure and Gantt to put that all together for you. So yeah.
Excellent. That's great. Yeah, this is great. They have products that are very flexible, that can support so many different ways. You don't have to fit into a certain mold. I love it. Question here about custom charts. How can custom charts transform Jira data into actionable insights for executives, not just delivery teams?
Well, I would say usually we see that executives don't need to see every task detail. They need to see the right metrics at the right level. Custom charts lets you build dashboards that tailor Jira data to the audience, to each audience. For example, a delivery manager might want sprint burnout, while a portfolio lead might want resource utilization, and executives might want a health summary of all initiatives. The key is it's all in real time and directly connected to Jira. No exporting to Excel, no outdated slides. It's decision-ready data.
Yeah, and it's easy to use too, which is
Yeah.
great.
Very, very simple. You can pull your structures, you can pull your projects. It's very, very simple to use to slice and dice that data.
Excellent. Here's one. Oh, shifting priorities. Yeah, we talked about this challenge here. So when priorities shift, our programs need to pivot quickly. I think that almost all the people on the call here can relate to this. So how do tempo tools play a role in enabling that faster adaptation?
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of like the real value comes in, right? Structure lets you connect high level initiatives all the way down to projects and tasks and subtasks, and you can trace strategy into the actual work being delivered. And then Planner ensures that the resources you have align to those strategic priorities. it stores the resources you have to align there. So together, it means strategy isn't just a deck a deck on someone's desk. It's reflected into the day-to-day work, and you can measure if delivery is actually supporting your long-term goals. So together, they really show their value there in aligning everyone's goals.
Excellent. Here's one. Could you share us an example of how Tempo solutions have been used in industries like government, manufacturing, or telecom to solve specific program challenges?
To handle specific, in government, I would say one PMO reduced the time spent on reporting by 40% simply by moving from manual updates into custom charts. In manufacturing, Capacity Planner was used to balance workloads across product lines, reducing resource conflicts by 30%. Telecom, Structured Gantt gave program leaders real cross-project visibility, which helped them make decisions about project sequencing 25% faster. Each industry has unique challenges, right? But with our tools, it helps adapts to those needs. It's a very adaptable modules. So whether you're working in government or manufacturing, we're going to have something to assist you with those challenges, those unique challenges.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, that's one of the beauties of all of our solutions is that they're pretty much industry agnostic. Almost every industry that's using Jira can benefit from them. Here's one. So some organizations already use Jira plans, or also known as advanced roadmaps or big picture. What makes Tempo different?
Right, that's a fair question, and we actually see teams using those tools. The difference with Tempo's modules is that we're a truly Jira native module tool. More importantly, our plans are tied back to actual time logged in Jira. So forecasts aren't just educated guesses. You also get capacity, dependencies, and reporting all together in one ecosystem. So without the steep learning curve that comes with other tools, it's a solution that's built for adoption and value, not just functionality.
Excellent. Okay, here I'm looking at questions to see if there's any that we haven't already answered. I think we have time for one more. This one's about measurable outcomes here. So what tangible results have customers achieved after implementing these Tempo tools, whether it's efficiency, whether it's delivery speed, or reporting time savings?
Great question. So what we've seen, customers report anywhere from 15 to 20% faster delivery at the program level, 10 to 15% better utilization of their resources, and in some cases, up to 40% less time spent preparing reports, which is a major one, right? And while those numbers are powerful, the bigger story is confidence. PMOs and executives know they're making the right decision at the right time because they're finally working with live and reliable data.
Excellent. That's great. Well, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, we're Tempo. We're all about time. We want to make sure we're respecting everybody's. If we didn't get to your questions, we'll do our best to follow up. I mentioned before, just another plug, all of those products that you saw today are available on the Atlassian Marketplace. Highly recommend you head on over there, give it a free trial, or talk to your Jira admin to make sure that you give it a free trial. Thank you again so much for joining. Thank you, Siku. Thank you, Bandhu. This was a great webinar for Tempo. Hope you found it valuable, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.